I'm gonna give you the best accessories for athletes, and we're gonna start right now. So when we're trying to figure out the best accessories for athletes, we've got to look at sports through this huge lens. And in all reality, if you can look at a sport and say, all right, this sport needs these 3 specific characteristics, you can sort of look through it and go, all right, they need, take a sport like swimming and say, they need to be really explosive off the wall. So they need to have training blast impulse. They need to have a lot of trunk control so that they have good posture in the pool. So we have to train that trunk control. They need to have power endurance when they're in the water. Okay, well now we need to know how to train that power endurance. And when we look at sports through that lens, now you start to see that most sports have pretty similar characteristics. Yes, there's gonna be 1 or 2 things that get pulled out for specific sports and then put back in, say comparing that swimmer to a shot putter. That's gonna be a little bit different, but there's still ways that the training can carry over. We can even take combat sports and look at boxing, MMA, wrestling, and start to see that, all right, they need to have that nice impulse score, but they're also gonna have to have power endurance so that they can scramble late in the match. And then they're also gonna need some absolute strength so that when they tie up with their opponents, they feel strong and they can control and manipulate their opponent. So you look at that lens and you see those strength characteristics, and then that starts to feed the specific exercise that might emulate movements within that actual sport. So now we're gonna go into all of those key accessories to help you guys fix all your problems so that you can become better athletes. All right, so this exercise is gonna be our first dynamic trunk control exercise that we're gonna focus on, okay? So one of the best things about working our core or our trunk is that we have to learn how to absorb force. And this is a pretty easy movement that you can use on a bench, you could do it on the floor, but it's gonna force you to recruit a lot of motor units in your abs and in your hips, which helps your trunk coordinate very effectively, which leads to better transfer out on a football field, out on a basketball court. Even if you're a swimmer doing breaststroke, butterfly, anything where there's a lot of active motion with your trunk and your hips, and that's basically every single sport. And so this is called Dane's Fast Abs Simple V-Up version. So what we wanna look for right off the bat is we're gonna use our hydro weight here, okay? So if we go in that V-Up position, we can bring it down rapidly. And you wanna squeeze, you don't wanna fall backwards. A lot of errors that you're gonna see with beginner athletes is that when they bring that down rapidly, their feet go to the ceiling and they fall back to their back, okay? Because they don't absorb that well. They don't have that dynamic trunk control. One of the other factors is you wanna make sure that they're on their glutes, okay? So we're here, 1, 2, 3, okay? And then we can go 1, boom, 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 boom. And so now we start to rotate and we're starting to feel a little bit of isometric action while we're holding that position, and then we're absorbing from each side, and that can make it really, really complicated. It's a great exercise that you can use on an impulse day. It's an exercise that you can use in a contrast method if you're using something a little bit faster. It's absolutely phenomenal. I'd say do 4 sets of 7 to each direction. So that second key accessory, and this might be my favorite accessory known to mankind, at least for my hamstrings, is going to be the Nordic hamstring pulls. We call these straight up hamstring pulls at Garage Strength. And what ends up happening is a lot of people really struggle to get these done. And you might even see that some people struggle so much that they might get a calf cramp here or a little cramp just at the bottom of their hamstring right behind their knee. So you've got to ease into these work slowly. You can do a couple different things to slow things down. You can put your hands out, but what's going to happen is it's going to help improve the eccentric loading of your hamstring. It's good for anyone who needs rapid change of direction. Think about tennis players, basketball players, football players, running backs, right? Another key factor is that it's gonna help with your overall speed. So you can start off with somebody and say, all right, let's do a slow eccentric Nordic hamstring, okay? So we go down nice and slow, and you can already see I'm starting to break at that hip. So you wanna make sure that you have hip extension. It's also really good for weightlifters to learn hip extension with their hamstrings. So I'm here, I wanna come down, and if I wanna use my hands, go here, a little push on the way back up, and I could do 2 or 3. And what happens is my hamstrings start to wake up. They start to fire really, really well. And I can even start to feel a little bit here. Come down, I'm gonna do one where I touch, back up, and then as they get better, you can either use bands, which we tend to use here at Garage Strength, or we can come down here and come back up. And I still am breaking at my hip, but my whole goal, ironically, you're gonna feel this in your lower back as well, is that I want hip extension as we come off of that pad. Hip extension. So use Nordic curls, I would say once or twice a week. In the beginning, it's gonna be better to use them once a week because they can make you pretty sore. As you get better at them, you can do them twice a week. Some of them you can do more speed-based, some of them you can do a little slower eccentric, but they're absolutely phenomenal as a leg accessory exercise. And as far as sets and reps, I would say you can do 4 to 5 sets for 5 reps, or you can do 3 sets of 9 if you wanna have longer endurance in those hamstrings. And just like how Nordics are perfect for building strong and reliable hamstrings, everyone needs a safe and reliable internet source, and that's why I recommend checking out today's video sponsor, Aura.
Aura is identity theft protection, fraud monitoring, a VPN, password management, and antivirus software all combined into one easy-to-use app. You might have one of these services already, but if you don't have all the tools, it's like training your arms all day and having tiny chicken legs. Imagine trying to log into your email account one day only to see the password I changed a few hours ago, and then you start getting notifications of activity from your bank, credit cards, crypto accounts, and more. Thankfully, Aura monitors the dark web for your emails, passwords, and social security number and sends alerts fast, right to your phone and email. We were lucky enough to find out that none of our accounts or passwords were compromised thanks to Aura's easy-to-use system. Aura also gives you real-time alerts on suspicious credit inquiries, like if someone was opening a loan or credit card in your name. Aura's VPN allows you to stay anonymous online by keeping your browsing history and personal information safe and encrypted. Protect yourself, family, and your business from identity theft at aura.com/garagestrength. And if you sign up right now, Aura will give you a 2-week free trial using our link down below so that you can stay secure and make sure that none of your personal information has been compromised. Now that we got your personal information safe and secure while browsing the web, let's take it back to Dane so you can become an athletic freak with these accessories.
You can do a long period of sled work. So this is something I learned from Charles Poliquin, and then I was fortunate enough to spend time with Ben Patrick, AKA Knees Over Toes Guy. And if you have any type of knee pain or knee problems, this is gonna help quite a bit. You still might need to do some mobility work. You still might need to do things like super slow eccentric squats if you have that knee pain. But if you don't, a great preventative measure is doing 7, 8, 9, 10 lengths of about 30 yards where you pull backwards, you push forward. It doesn't need to be crazy heavy. You could have 225, 275 on, and the main focus is trying to really light those quads up so that we can increase that collagenous hypertrophy and improve our quad strength. I found that even athletes that tend to have longer limbs can benefit tremendously from doing consistent sled work. My quads are pumped. All right, so this next accessory is gonna be something that you can use if you struggle with cutting. If you're somebody like, let's think about tennis, basketball, or even if you're playing soccer, if you're a shot putter, and if you're a football player, a running back, a linebacker that cuts quite a bit, maybe your adductors get a little bit fatigued. Some people have issues in their adductors when they're cutting on a regular basis, and this is where the Copenhagen plank comes into play. I'm gonna give you a couple variations to make it a little bit more dynamic. Okay, it also is gonna help your dynamic trunk control. And we have a bench that we can actually change the height of the pad, so that can make it a little bit more challenging. You can also get into a position where you have this arm posted up. One thing that I like to do here is I can hold out, come up, okay? Bring my hips back down, come up, hips back down, come back up. Now, I also think we can get into a position here where we're actually trying to get into a hip lock with this leg while we're holding. This is really challenging, and I can feel it quite a bit inside of my groin. So one of those things that you can do is that if you struggle with the action of cutting, be a little bit more dynamic. If you struggle with holding that isometric position, let's say you are a shot putter and you're sweeping wider and you have an isometric position even out of the back of the circle with that non-dominant leg. Well, now you can use that Copenhagen plank to increase and bulletproof your groin so it can handle that load and handle that intensity as you get more advanced in your sports career. I would say do this once or twice a week. You can do one day as a warm-up, you can do another day as an accessory, or you might do 3 or 4 sets for 9 reps on each side, or you want to hold for 30 seconds on each side. So arguably one of the best accessory movements that you can use for sports performance would be a reverse hyper. And the reason why I love this is that a lot of athletes have problems with lower back issues. Their lower back gets banged up. Let's think about football players or wrestlers. They have a lot of collisions. They have a lot of fatigue from their specific sport. Even if you're looking at field hockey players really struggle with that lower back pain, okay? And typically that's because there's a little bit of weakness as far as endurance is concerned. So I love doing reverse hypers with high reps, okay? We might do 3 sets of 17. We might do 3 sets of 30 to really lead to that long endurance strength inside of the erectors, inside of our posterior chain. If you don't have access to this bad boy, you can use banded good mornings for sets of 50. You could do banded back extensions. You could use a glute ham with a bar on your back. But this movement is absolutely amazing if you can keep your hips extended at the top, keep that leg lengthened, have that leg locked out, and knee extension, okay? And we want to think about pushing through our belly button and really flexing and then coming up and arching at the top. So we're gonna get set here, come up, legs long, and try and squeeze in those glutes at the top, long knees. So you can use this to create better endurance in your lower back. It's also gonna get stronger, so your main lifts are gonna get better, so then you can get more explosive. And then when you're deep inside of a competition, if you are playing field hockey, or you're wrestling, or you're playing football, you're gonna have a lot less back discomfort because of using the reverse hyper. So accessory exercises are absolutely key for a training program, but they often get overlooked. And some of the big factors go back to we have to look at what each problem is that athletes might have. And if we can analyze their problem based off of their genetics, based off of their structural integrity, based off of the sports that they play, then we can alleviate these problems with these specific accessories. So if you have any of these problems in your training or you have any of these problems as athletes, you can head over to peakstrength.app and use these specific accessories inside of our app. The first 7 days is entirely free so that you can test out our app, see all 35 different sports that we've programmed so that you can get a personalized plan to help you with your gains. If you want to learn more about specific exercises that you can use to train for specific sports, head over our brand new YouTube channel, Peak Strength, because remember, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.